Students of color make up the majority of OUSD, and yet despite recent policies, we don't feel centered in district curriculum or equitably resourced. For example, ethnic studies has yet to be implemented across the district. Similarly, the Reparations for Black Students resolution seeks to address many of the issues facing Black students and families, but OUSD has yet to put many elements of that resolution into motion. What will you do to ensure these policies and resolutions that center students of color in OUSD are a top priority? Let's start with Jennifer Brouhard.
So as a, is this on? Okay. As a school board member, I think it's our job to implement these resolutions. Ethnic studies is something I feel is really important, and I know that there are teachers doing this grades, elementary, middle school, and high school. I think that ethnic studies is a really important, it really should replace our history education. It is our history education. I think that some of the things that are linked with the George Floyd, with the Black Reparations resolution are also linked to ethnic studies. And I think when we look at developing a curriculum that reflects who's in our classroom, when we look at looking at assessment in terms of who's in our classroom, when we look at, excuse me, I'm looking at my notes here. I spent a lot of time with this one today. I think that there's a Black Students Task Force, Black Students and Families. I think we need to rely on that task force to come up with ways to implement those things, and then it's up to us to implement them. I think that as far as looking at how ethnic studies links to Black students' reparations, I think that, again, this curriculum, having a curriculum that speaks to experiences and addresses the concerns of our students, is linked directly to the Black students' reparation. That reparation calls for developing curriculum that reflects who's in the classroom.
OUSD has struggled with its finances for many years. We're excited that increased funding for community schools is coming from the governor, but we know structural issues continue with the OUSD's budget. What do you feel are the biggest challenges with OUSD's budget, and how will you engage students, families, and educators to ensure that their voices and experiences inform budgetary decisions?
I'm going to echo a lot of what other people have said. I think first off, we do need an independent audit of our budget. I think the school district owes that to the community to be clear about exactly where we are in our finances. I think the other thing is, as far as this money that is coming in from the community services grant, I think we've all seen we've seen large amounts of money come in, and we've had a one-size-fits-all program. We had something that everybody was going to use, whether that was social emotional programs, reading programs, whatever. And I think we need to really do a needs assessment of each site. And each site should have a say in what they feel their community, their students need most, what would benefit them the most. I think that we have to prioritize the classroom, and I think it does go beyond just supplies and things like that. We do need to pay our teachers more. We need to pay our classified staff more. When you hear the classified salaries, Oakland should be ashamed of them. So I think that in looking at school budgets, that really encompasses a lot of things aside from just what is in the classroom as far as supplies. That includes, for many schools, structural things that need to be done. We've all worked in schools where pipes leaked, or the heater didn't work, or the windows didn't open, or there's mold in the walls. And I think we really sometimes don't look at that structural damage as much as we need to. So I would say, again, the first thing we need to do is go back to our communities, that our budget should have the community voice, and the budget should be clear to everyone. Thank you.
Counselors at schools for children for ADHD and autism. Do you have counselors that aren't rough with them and will actually treat them kindly?
I also want to add to that question. I do have a background in special education, and my daughter is currently a special education teacher. And I think that we really have to look at the budget for special ed. I think that there are many positions, those of you who are in special ed programs, or if your kids are, we know that there are many openings. We know that they haven't staffed. I know in my daughter's classroom, she doesn't have a paraprofessional, it's her. And the district, I know, having gone to the recent CAC meetings, that the district claims that these positions are filled, and they're not. And I think that when people are overworked, it's not an excuse. I mean, it does break my heart that counselors are overworked and that our students feel that they are being mistreated by staff and counselors. But I think we absolutely have to fund at top levels for special education. If any of you have been a special education teacher, the workload of a teacher is phenomenal. I mean, from IEPs to meeting with parents to advocating for students, our special education teachers and counselors are extremely overworked. I know when I was a teacher, I did travel, and it was insane. I went to 3 different schools, and there was no connection with my students. If my students needed something in the afternoon and that wasn't my time to be at that school, they had nothing. So I think we really have to look at our hiring practices in special education, and we have to look at funding. And I'm also going to add, I think we need to look at a special pay scale for our special education educators.
Hello, I'm Allison. I'm a student at Oakland High, and I'm a youth organizer with Oakland Kids First. And this question is specifically for our District 2 members. So as Derek mentioned earlier, our coalition has developed the Student Justice Platform. You've heard the demands from over 1,400 students, and you will hold a seat that represents over 30,000 students in OUSD. If you are elected into office, how can we hold you accountable for going through with these plans, such as implementing gender-neutral bathrooms and reducing the teacher retention rate?
I think regular meetings, whether they're weekly or biweekly, would be important, and I think at the different sites. I think it's also important as far as gender-neutral bathrooms. I'm going to take some other students were talking about that earlier. I think that's also really important at the elementary level, and oftentimes we forget our elementary students are also requesting gender-neutral bathrooms. So I think I would like to see regular meetings with at least middle school and high school, and then possibly middle school students or elementary students with their parents. I think we are accountable, and we're going to make mistakes, and I would expect that students would also call us on those mistakes. We learn from each other, and I know certainly as a classroom teacher I've made mistakes, and it's my students and parents who have spoken up, and we've transformed what the experience was. So I really do support that. I do support your demands. I the social justice that the student was reading earlier, and I think how we can implement those is really by valuing and centering student voice.